Thank you, dear viewers, for joining us in this edition of the news on Equinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, lawyers of detained leaders of the secessionist struggle in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon remain determined to fight for the justice of their clients. They have been condemning what they consider as a travesty of justice after the Central Court of Appeal rejected the appeal filed following the decision of the military court to slam a life jail sentence on Sisiku, Ayuk, Tabe and the other 9 secessionist leaders. And also in this newscast, we'll be talking about intensification of back-to-school campaigns in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and the senior divisional officer of the Donga Mantum division in the northwest region says any attempt to disrupt back to school in his area of command will be crushed. Lawyers of detained secessionist leaders Sisiku, Ayuk, Tabe and others say they will continue the struggle, the fight for the justice of their clients who have been detained in the maximum security prison in Yaoundé, in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, over the deepening socio-political and security crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. The lawyers have continued condemning what they consider as a travesty of justice following the decision of the Central Court of Appeal yesterday, rejecting the appeal filed after the military court slammed a life jail sentence on the secessionist leaders, and they consider that as a travesty of justice. Take a listen to lead defense counsel Barrister Paddy Young and the one of the lawyers defending the secessionist leaders, Barrister Kuyadza Joseph.
On the last day of adjournment, that was the 20th of August, the president of that panel, Justice Mejinda Mjimba, informed the court that he was going to take an adjournment because his panel had been, all of them on that panel had been transferred. And because of that, he was not in a proper position to start any matter afresh. And he adjourned the matter to today. Hopefully, we were thinking that by today, that panel would have moved. When we came to court today, we were surprised to find out that it was the same panel that we met last time that was listed on the court list. And when the court came in, the president of that court, Justice Mjimba informed the court, as he did last time, that he was going to adjourn all the matters because they had been transferred. Same reason he gave last time, they had been transferred. And they were not going to start any case because in a week's time, they will be taking up their various offices in their respective places that they have been transferred to. Curiously enough, they started by calling number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. They skipped number 5. They didn't call number 5 because our appellant's matter was listed as number 5 on the court list. And went on and called all the other matters. When they were done with the other matters, we, counsel for all the appellants, informed the court that our matter had not been called up. He instructed the court, the registrar of that court, to call up the names of our clients, the appellant, Sisiku and 9 others.
They took all these records of appeal, served our clients at the Konengi principal prison, and they denied us access to go to the prison and collect these record of proceedings in order to file additional grounds of appeal as we had indicated in our memorandum of grounds of appeal we filed. And yet they expect us to prosecute the appeal. They are our clients. These are appellants who cannot see their lawyers, who cannot discuss with their lawyers, but their lawyers have to defend them at the level of the court of appeal.
Barrister Kuyadza Joseph went further to explain what is at astonishing in the decision of the Yaoundé or the Center Court of Appeal, and even the previous decision by the military court of Yaoundé. To them, as common law lawyers, it is difficult to understand the decisions taken by the different courts with regards to their clients, Sisiku, Ayuk, Tabe, and the other 9 Anglophone leaders. Take a listen to Barrister Joseph.
One thing I admire in the French legal system, they are on the path of illegality and the path of injustice, and they are very consistent with that. That I admire them. At the level of the military tribunal, they have been doing injustice. At the level of the Court of Appeal, they have done injustice. That I admire in them. And this goes to buttress the fact that trying to force Anglophones and Francophones to live together in this country is just a waste of time. I've been a lawyer for 22 years, and I have never seen such a travesty of justice in broad daylight and without shame. In English law, the right of the accused is primordial, because it's a cardinal principle in English law that it's better to set free 100 prisoners than convict one innocent person. What happened at the level of the court of the military tribunal is the same thing that happened in the Court of Appeal. How? Imagine a situation like our clients were asked at the level of the military tribunal, after we did an appeal, to pay 5 million francs as the cost of the record of proceedings. And we paid the money. And 6 thick volumes of the record of proceedings were produced. So for us to mention here that they were tendered at the level of the military tribunal during the trial, and the judges, without even looking at them, delivered judgment. This is strange to the common law system.
Barrister Joseph speaking there now to the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon, where administrative authorities are intensifying efforts to ensure that pupils and students effectively resume school or resume their educational career in the upcoming academic year. And the senior divisional officer of the Donga Mantum Division has said that any attempt to disrupt or hinder back to school in his area of command will be crushed. Dr. Quentin Simon was speaking during a back to school campaign in Kamer. For me, Armstrong Sander reports.
Speaking at the launch, the senior divisional officer for the Donga Mantum Division, Dr. Do Simon Quentin, asked the stakeholders of the division to put hands on deck for an effective school resumption in all localities in his area of command. Noting that the impacts of the school closures in subdivisions like Ndu, Nwa and Ako was disturbing, he rallied divisional stakeholders to the divisional launch of Back to School in the divisional chieftown Kambi.
The divisional officers, the mayors, the delegates in charge of education, and other stakeholders are on the field to educate, to inform, to sensitize, and mobilize all these tribes.
In attendance were divisional officers from the 5 subdivisions of Donga Mantum Division, mayors, educational stakeholders, traditional rulers, religious officials, and some local stakeholders. The chief executive officer of the division, who is just coming back from a similar meeting chaired by the Northwest governor at the regional chieftown Bamenda, reiterated the need for all to join effort towards seeing a smooth takeoff of schools in the entire Donga Mantum Division come October 5th, 2020.
Let us act now by encouraging all our children of school-going age to enroll in schools and effectively start classes on 5th October 2020.
The ceremony was also an opportunity to take stock of the just ended academic year and look for a possible way forward in the growth of education in the division. Taking into consideration the fragile security context, he sent out what he called a warning to those he qualified as separatist fighters in the Donga Mountain Division. To Dr. Doe Simon Quenty, the days of grace were over. He further asked the population of his area of command to mobilize for the upcoming regional elections built for the seat of December 2020. Observers have, however, continued to question what administrative officials in Cameroon are doing with regards to burnt and destroyed school buildings as days narrow to October the 5th, 2020.
In the report coming up next, Innocent as it takes us into the challenges faced by farmers in the Mongo Division, littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon. A case in point in this newscast concerns farmers who cultivate and sell what is locally known as ginger. His report.
Ginger, the hot fragrant spice made from the rhizome of a plant commonly used by most households, is still a star product in markets across Cameroon. It is thanks to cultivators. This spice still shines in markets, though cultivation and transportation to commercial centers prove challenging.
Sancho est la plus grande zone de production. On a beaucoup de difficultés. Comme vous-même vous voyez la route est vraiment enclavée.
In Sancho, Manual Division of the West Region, main ginger cultivation zone, cultivators regret their efforts are compensated with bad roads.
Sorti du champ pour la route nationale, vraiment nous souffrons.
It is sad the roads are deplorable for transportation of the ginger.
On est en train de bien souffrir présentement. Bien souffrir.
Transporting a bag of ginger from the farm to market over a distance of 10 kilometers now costs 3,000 francs. From ending September and October, the same bag costs 5,000 francs. Once in the market, another problem sets in. Poor sales.
On ne vend pas bien, tout juste parce que
The retailers, call them Bayam Salams, bring bags bigger than ours. As such, we are cheated. If we were to measure like before, we will maximize profits and have some of the ginger for home consumption.
j'aime ma part que je peux préparer. Donc on souffre comme ça pour rien.
In the domestic and international market, the rhizome is highly demanded. Cultivators wish for support. The state should help us with tractors and other machines in order to cultivate on a larger scale. It is frustrating. We preach significance of the second generation agriculture, yet are abandoned in a bush. It pains. Before the coming of the coronavirus, the cultivators were generating enough income from foreign customers. Today, with the COVID-19 pandemic, they turn to the government for help.
Si on connaît les gens Djombe Penja par son poivre, pourquoi pas Sancho par son gingembre?
What affects cocoa should equally affect coffee. With government's assistance, we will be known and demand will rise.
On peut ouvrir des grandes boutiques en bordure de route pour faire rien que les jus naturels. Les gens, tout du gingembre.
These cultivators also transform the rhizome to powder used for drinks and medical purposes. If they were empowered, production will be on a large scale. Government with the knife and cocoyam is expected to react whether or not and how to slice the shell of these ginger cultivators.
Experts of the Worldwide Fund for Nature say that the biodiversity of countries around the world, including Cameroon and other African countries, are fast fading out, are fastly being destroyed by human activities, unfriendly activities that are unfriendly to the environment, and they indicate that there is need for urgent action to save the world's biodiversity, and the destruction is progressing at an alarming rate. And if nothing is done, if urgent action is not taken, it may be very difficult for people to live in some places around the world because of the impact of the destruction of the biodiversity of countries around the world. And they were speaking during the Biodiversity Day in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. Now take a listen to the country director of WWF.
Huge decline in biodiversity. There are huge losses, and it's time to act first to stop that biodiversity is lost, and also to reverse the trend. Otherwise, nature will be in trouble, and humanity will also be in trouble. The sense in Cameroon is that if we do not stop the loss of biodiversity, even the economic development will suffer from it, because whatever we do for development economy, we do it based on the nature we have. So the idea here is to ensure that all our human activities, be them for our survival or for our development and economic development, are taking into account the need to protect the environment, and where there's an impact, that the impact are mitigated.
Reducing waste and favoring healthier and environmentally friendly diet. WWF is therefore calling for urgent action to reverse the trend by 2030 by ending the destruction of natural habitat and reforming our food system. If we don't achieve this, evidence shows that nature will continue to decline and further irreversible natural losses are likely to occur.
The WWF Cameroon country director speaking there. Now in news out of the country, Ivory Coast ex-leaders Guillaume Soro and Laurent Gbagbo, whose bid for the presidential election was sidelined by the Constitutional Court, think that the decision is a scheme to their words to enthrone Alassane Dramane Ouattara, who is the current president of that country. In the meantime, in Mali, the country's former president Moussa Traoré is laid to rest today. A report.
40 presidential candidates have been rejected by Ivory Coast top court, leaving only 4 to participate in the highly anticipated October 31st election. The Constitutional Court validated Ouattara's candidacy bid, but sidelined that of Guillaume Soro and former President Laurent Gbagbo on the grounds that they had been handed jail terms. On Thursday, Guillaume Soro declared he will remain a candidate in the polls, describing the decision taken by the Constitutional Council as a scheme to enshrine the 78-year-old Ouattara as president. He adds that if Alassane Ouattara's decision to seek a third term in office is successful, then a coup d'etat should be anticipated. Elections. Meanwhile, Gbagbo's supporters are calling for mass protests to block the dictatorship of Ouattara. Mali's former president Moussa Traoré, who took part in the coup in 1968 and remained president until he was ousted by the military in 1991, will be buried today at the Place d'Armes de Génie Militaire at the former air base in the country's capital, Bamako. A 3-day national mourning period started on Thursday in his memory, and Malian military leader Colonel Assimi Goïta is expected to attend the funeral.
Immaculate Fogwe ending the first part of this newscast. Coming up next, Talking Point. Thanks for staying with us in Talking Point. Today we are receiving an educationist. Louis Tabo is the founder of Trinity Comprehensive High School, Ndobo, Bonaberi Douala for subdivision. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Bavela, for inviting me to Talking Point this evening.
The back to school campaign is gaining steam in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, with administrative authorities doing everything possible to ensure that pupils and students return to school come next month, return to school for the next academic year, the 2020-2021 academic year. And in this newscast, we heard the senior divisional officer of the Tonga Mantum division saying any attempt to hinder back to school will be crushed. Pupils have to go back to school.
So to say, Mr. Babila, it is true that you listen to these drums being hit by the administration. But to understand this back to school issue, we need to take it from 3 points. You see what the administration is doing. You look at what the schools and the proprietors and the principals are doing. And then lastly, you look at how ready the parents are. If we take it from these 3 perspectives, we will then understand whether we are ready or not, whether back to school will be effective or not. On the side of the administration, I think that the administration is doing good. They're trying to push the thing to the limit that is possible. The book list that used to be a very big problem at the beginning of the year have been published. That gives us the impression that the ministry is very ready for the back to school to be operational in October. But what is lacking there is transfers. We have not yet had transfers for the civil servants, the principals, and so on. So some of them are still working with mixed feelings that they might do something here and they get transferred to the end. There is one other thing that is disturbing the ministry too. The GCE results have not yet come out. All of us know that GCE has not yet been published. So on the side of the administration, the drums are on the field, but the things that have to be done by the ministry, we are still expecting them to be done. On the side of the proprietors, the principals, and the teachers, well, they are doing their work, especially at the level of the private sector. They are rushing up and down. You see flyers on the field everywhere now. These flyers trying to inform parents about, because in the education we don't talk about publicity. We just inform the parents about what is going to happen this year. They are being active, but for the principals of government schools who are still having mixed feelings, they are not sure whether they will be there or not. Now, for the parents who are really the people who send their children to school, there is something very difficult to analyze. Parents have mixed feelings, first because of COVID. They are not yet sure whether schools will reopen because of COVID. If you go to the schools, as you go to move around, registration is still very weak. The attendance is still very poor. By now, 1 week, 2 weeks to reopening date, schools are supposed to have registered so many children, so many students. But now, if you go to the field, the registration is still poor because parents are still skeptical about this COVID issue, because the information that the government is giving is scaring also. It's scaring. Even though on the field, we don't see any...
how is it scaring?
When the number of victims...
The restrictions or the number...
No, the number of victims...
The coronavirus information.
The coronavirus information that is being published every weekend, every Friday. It still scares parents because it gives the impression that the corona is there and there. Unfortunately, on the field... Of
course, the Minister of Communication said yesterday that coronavirus is still there and urging people to continue respecting...
That is why the parents are scared. That is what scares the parents. If corona is there and on the field, if you like, you move to Central Market, move to the Bonavero, you see how many people are putting on the mask, then you will understand why people have to be scared and be reticent to send their children outside. That is one thing on that side. The other side of it is the level of poverty. Every Cameroonian, even the adamant supporter of the regime, knows now that the things are difficult financially, especially for parents who try it every day on daily basis. Because you can even go to the market, to the bush, to the farms and bring your products. It is not possible for you to carry them to the market, either because there is a clash between the Ambazonians, the freedom fighters and the military, or because there are no roads, or because the transport is not there. So it makes things really difficult for those who try life on daily basis. Even Mr. Babila, those who are in offices, they have the same cry. They have the same cry. I don't know whether what is happening, but the situation is so morose that we are really afraid. But since education is something that every parent would like to give to the child, we have hope and think that sooner or later something will be done, something will happen.
We will come back to that aspect in a short while, because there is an outcry from parents, notably some of them who have their children in some private schools, complaining about very high tuition fees and so on. We'll come back to that in a short while. Another thing which you mentioned, the COVID-19, which is making parents to have mixed feelings and doubting whether they're going to send their children to school or not. And another issue is poverty. But there is another big issue, which is the unstable socio-political climate in the two Anglophone regions of the country. But the government says no matter what is happening, children need to learn. Children need to go to school, because if they don't go to school, after some years there will be a whole generation of uneducated people. What do you think about that?
It is a correct statement. In English, it is correct. Grammatically, it is correct. The context of the question, of the statement you just made, is also correct, because children must go to school, or else in the nearest future something will happen. But what is happening that the children are not going to school? That's where we should find the solution. Why are children not going to school, especially in the areas that we know? I'm not a political analyst, but I think that somebody is lacking goodwill somewhere to address this issue squarely, so that the freedom to go to school should actually be exercised by my parents. Look, Mr. Babala, I used to sit and smile, let me not say laugh, when I see people over your television saying that they are praying for the Anglophone crisis, they are praying for the crisis that are fine. But I've not seen anybody pray for the commander of the military, who is commanding the crisis. Let somebody also, let people, men of God, engage some prayers to change the head of state's mind. We keep on praying on the field when the people who are exercising, who are doing the job are there. Let us pray for them too. You know, God starts his work where we have ended ours. So I think that my opinion is that somebody somewhere has not agreed, has not accepted, still lacks the goodwill to address this issue squarely. For that reason, militaries to go to the field in numbers, in their numbers. They make the environment look fearful. We are used to the police.
They are, however, saying that they are there to restore peace, to make sure that the people are protected and the territorial integrity of Cameroon is protected, and they are laying the blame of the unfavorable security climate on the separatist fighters who get into fight with them most often in different parts of the two Anglophone regions of the country. In a nutshell, what I understand from what you're saying is that something has to be done for the atmosphere to be conducive,
to be calm,
so
conducive.
That the right to education of the children should not be violated.
I think that is where we need to start from. All the politicians, all the administrators who are gunning for back to school, including me, because I live by it, I enjoy doing it. Something needs to be done to render the environment serene in such a way that those who are doing these things, they didn't go to school with the military parading the roads. They didn't do that. Now, children, including adults, are afraid of the military. They don't see them as protectors. That is what is going to render October 5th a difficult day, especially for those who are in the areas that are directly concerned. You cannot send your child on the street when you know that there are people on the street who can do anything that they want to do with the child. I left Muyuka one day when a butcher was caught. A butcher was caught because he carried meat and stained his dress with the meat. When he packed the meat, he was taken right to Boya.
As a suspect.
As a suspect, because of the blood
on him.
And I think, to the best of my knowledge, the guy is still in Boya. I mean, things are just funny on the field. It is true that when you send people to the field, the instructions that they have, they can go and extend and do
Some
more.
of them can go astray.
Go astray, but that is what they are doing. And that is what we are suffering. That is what those who are on the field are suffering. If you see what is happening, the ramshackling that is happening in Bawenda in people's homes, you will understand that nobody will accept to do this business of October, or
some of
in a difficult way.
Some of the negative perceptions developed in the minds of the population with regards to the security and defense forces is as a result of the allegations of atrocities being committed by some of the soldiers on the ground. But the military, the Department of Communication of the ministry indicates that there is a lot that is being done now to bridge the gap between the population and the security and defense forces, some civil or military activities in order to bring back that confidence, to ensure the people that they are there to protect them and not to destroy. This is what the Ministry of Defense and other government authorities are saying that they are doing on the ground.
That is good news for us. In fact, if it could happen in that way, when you send 1,000 people on the field and 200 are doing good work, 800 are doing the contrary, we will not feel the impact of the good work. That's what is happening on the field. Many of these guys who are on the field, they are doing things that they were not authorized to do. So it brings more fear. The communication from the Ministry of Defense doesn't go to people's ears because what they hear is different from what they see on the field. You cannot leave your house in Bamenda now and go to the market, sell your oranges and come back freely. You can't. You can't.
Because of the difficult terrain.
Sometimes the military take it on themselves to send you back. And they are
maybe because of the risk of
they are the people who are considering
in a crossfire.
Yes, it is true. When you are in such a situation, as you are going back, you might meet one of the freedom fighters. You are still in a problem. So I think that Babila, we have been trying this issue. We have used the military to try to solve this issue. If I had a voice in this country, I would have preferred that we withdraw the military and use another way to try to see whether we can solve this issue. Even if it doesn't mean calling the freedom fighters to a table, we withdraw the military and use another diplomatic ways. The Cameroon is versed with intellectuals, my brother. People who can do things, people who have learnt, who have gone to places, they know how crises are being solved. But we have been using the military for 4 years.
So you think that now the military should go back to the barracks?
I'm talking about the army. I'm not talking about the police. I'm not talking about the gendarmes. The army, their place is not on the streets.
They should go back to the barracks.
They should go to the barracks.
That's what you're saying. Okay, and we should also indicate that recently the Minister of Defense announced punishment for some of the soldiers who misbehaved in some of the incidents in the 2 Anglophone regions of the country, and the ministry indicates that there are some few who may go out of the instructions, away from the instructions given.
It's good. It's good news. It's just that.
And then there is also an issue of making sure that the schools are protected, but the children between the school and the home is yet another question
that is where you are welcome. If the schools are protected, the gap between the homes and the school, what happens? Even after that gap, when the children get home, who protects them at home? It suffices for somebody to see that you went to school and he is not for school. He comes to your home and pick you or pick your parents. And that starts from there. A different story starts for your life. And many people fall victims in this manner.
But as an educationist, I guess you will agree with those who think that whatever happens or whatever is happening, the education of children should not be hijacked.
It's true. It's true. I very much agree with that.
All right, now let's talk about the issue of financial constraints. Financial constraints faced by parents. Some of them are complaining that school fees in some private institutions of learning are very high, very high.
I don't know why this complaint should come. In fact, before you go and register in a school, they give you a prospectus. You see the conditions of entry of registration in that school. You go to the school, you look at the environment. If you build a room, put an air condition, put a single desk for a child, you give breakfast in the morning, you give them lunch before they go home, you have to put this cost for the parents to pay. The parents choose themselves to go to these schools which are high. Besides, there is a free government school with about a few hundreds of thousands of PTA. Next door, there is another private school that is far cheaper. So that complaint should not come. It should not even come, because in the society there are a series of categories of schools. You need to choose where your hand. The problem is that with Cameroonians, they just look at a name, a big name, and want to be part of that name. They go and get themselves involved in it. At the end of the day, they are not able to cope with the fees. They are not able to eat in the house.
So what you're saying
it makes
is that
a problem.
The fees are
appropriate to the services rendered, and nobody's obliged to go and write a name in a school. There are schools that are as cheap as anything. It depends on what you are looking for. If you want your child to be taught in an air-conditioned room, you have to be able to pay for. If you want your child to be taught sitting on a bench in water, just as I saw last night on Equinoxe News, you decide and register the child there and pay the price. So parents shouldn't even leave this issue. They should stop complaining about this.
Another issue is the quality of education given to the pupils and the students. The standards seem to be dropping. What are you doing as an educationist, maybe in your own institution, to raise the standard of education being given to the children? Today, it's easy to find a class 6 people who cannot read well, who cannot even read, not to talk of writing.
Yes, in Trinity College, in Trinity Comprehensive High School, when we receive children, we counsel them, orientate them towards what they are best at, and then we accompany them to exploit whatever they have in them. At the end of the day, we don't fail, because everybody has something in his head. It is because parents go to places and say, I want my child to do this, and they accept. We don't accept us in Trinity, in Bonaveri, in Trinity College. We receive a child, counsel the child, and choose the child. With the child, we choose what the child has to do, and we accompany the child to go ahead. So we don't see that issue. We know in my Form 1 of last year, I had to go and bring in a class 6 teacher to come and teach English in Form 1, because formation of words, which is the base of reading, the students who could not. So we had to go and look for a class 6 teacher to come and do word formation and reading for 2 months before they started school. It is true what parents are saying, but the problem is not only from teachers. Let us do this. Let us be frank with this.
I was going to ask you to say some few words concerning the role of parents. I guess that's where you're going to.
Yes.
The role of parents.
Parents, in the most part, have failed. Parents think that when they disburse money, pay the school fees, buy the books, their own responsibility ends. That is why the children are not coping. When the teacher orientates, teaches and gives notes and gives homework, he expects the parent to orientate, to guide the child to do the homework, so that the next day the teacher will be able to see whether the child understood the lesson of yesterday or not. But parents, those who try to do something, do the homework for the students, which is not correct. We say that they should be aware, they should accompany the children to do the homework, not do the homework in their place. The worst ones don't even look at the books. But at the end of the term, at the end of the year, they are the first people to complain of standards. No, this thing is a collective issue, Mr. Babila. It's
Everyone
a collective
should put hands on
yes,
deck.
all of us should put hands on the deck
Better results.
For better results. That's correct.
All right, Luis Tebo, educationist. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for inviting me. I will be doing harm to myself if I don't send greetings to the parish pastor of Yoke and her chairperson, because there are people I have met who have been good to me, I think I need to send them some salute.
All right, thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. That's it for today.
Equinoxe Télévision, au-delà de l'image.